Self-funded, boy.
What's up, Stripe Nation? Blake Albertson here with B&B Lock here. We are at the 2022 Green Industry Hype House, brought to you by the Hardscape Academy and l'entrepreneuracademy.com, which is awesome. Lots of great guests coming on here today. Ask questions. I think we have a few questions that were already asked. We're going to talk about numbers, budgeting, and whatever else you guys want to talk about here on the live stream. So,
absolutely.
You got a great question, Andy, earlier about keeping personal and business.
Yeah, there was a question that came in, and thanks for we're also on two other people's live Instagrams here, so mine and Trifecta's page, so check them out. And anyway, so the question that came in was, how do you go about keeping your business finances and personal finances separate, basically, right? We both thought that was a really good question. And I think it's maybe something that doesn't get talked about enough. For me, the minute I started my company, I created a separate business account to keep everything separate, because otherwise, as you grow, everything gets too intermingled, and you can't keep track of things for tax reasons and for running your own company. And so it's really wise to get completely separate accounts. Now we have 5 different accounts that we run our business out of for different reasons and stuff. So that's how I personally do it. And I think that's a really good way to do it. And I encourage everybody to be doing something like that. So,
Alex? Yeah, I have 3 different, as many as you over there, Andy. But if you're funneling money backwards and forwards, trying to pay some bills from your house payment from your business, and you're doing it the opposite way, and you're paying bills from your business, from your personal account, and you're shuffling money, 1, you're never going to know your numbers properly. And 2, if the IRS comes to knocking, you're going to be talking. It's going to be a bad problem. So for us, we have 3 accounts. We have one that's for smaller purchases for cash flow, one that's a reserve fund, and then one that's a savings account for future capital expenses and purchases. So make sure you have those, guys, if you don't have separate accounts, to know exactly how much you need for the future.
What about like personal?
Oh, personal side, I have multiple accounts, almost the same structure. I pay myself from the business X amount of dollars. And if I need an extra withdrawal for that reason, it comes in like a form of bonus. So that way it's super clean.
AJ?
We are very, very structured as far as the business goes, from the business to the personal. We have multiple accounts. We have accounts just for payroll, just for equipment expenses, just for material expenses. But honestly, you have to separate your personal from it. We have a set amount that we pay ourselves, and that is it. We set our personal finances are not related to our company.
Right.
And as our company does better, then hey, that next year we'll change our personal life. But until that happens, like you can't detriment your company just to for personal gain. Because growth is what's fueling you to be able to do better later. So
that's right.
That's awesome. Do we have any other questions that came in, Ryan?
Yeah, we got a lot of folks that are saying, "What's up? How's everybody doing tonight?" Everybody wants to know where we at and how's the weather like down in Florida.
We're in Tampa, Florida, and yesterday was a little cold. I think it was like their coldest day of the year, which was not that bad, right? Yeah. But today got pretty nice. I think it was like 60, but it was like Florida 60, so it feels better than at home.
It was cold. It was cold this morning for breakfast, and I thought shorts and flip flops were a good idea. We sat outside and it wasn't.
We got some questions here for you guys. I'm not sure this one, I'm not a big sports guy, but first question was Rams or 49ers? Was there a game today?
There's a huge game tonight, NFC.
Go ahead.
49ers.
I'm a Debo Samuel, 49ers.
Okay, and you guys
stool is.
There you go. Yeah, those things are
sketchy.
Next question we got. We're talking all things numbers and making money. Why daily rates for equipment? And why not just add the overhead to another division?
So what they're talking about, at least what we do on our estimates, is everything is line itemed out, not necessarily for the client to see, but for us to estimate appropriately. So we have daily rates for every piece of equipment that goes out to a job, stone, labor, our job trailer, dump truck, whatever we're going to be using on that job is added to the estimate at a daily rate. And the reason I don't build that into my hourly rate is because every single job is different, and every single job requires different types of equipment. And so some jobs may be doing a drainage job and I don't need my, 1,000-pound reversible plate compactor. And so if I had all my equipment wrapped into my hourly rate, there'd be times when the estimate is skewed in a way where it's not fair to the client. And so that's why every single job is done differently. If I'm putting in like say we're just going to a planting job and I have 3 excavators that are all built into my overhead, and I'm not bringing those 3 pieces over there. It's not the right way to do it. And so that's why we break everything out per estimate and make sure that it's the right thing for us and also the right thing for the client.
So almost like on an ABC level. So almost like you're renting it from a rental company.
Yes.
And you're charged. Yeah.
100%.
So that way you can recoup your costs.
And that's a good place. Like that's a good place for people like, oh, I don't know what to be charging for some of this equipment or whatever. So some of the stuff initially when I started doing this, I got a price list from a local rental yard. And I kind of based some things off of that before I got different kinds of programs to help me with that. But it's very important to be charging for your equipment because there's no sense if you just are buying a skid loader and you're just saying, well, it's just going to make our job easier. And, now we have it. So I bring it to the job site. No, like you're selling labor, but we're all selling labor and equipment. So the draw for me to get more equipment is to be able to charge appropriately for it. Because if I didn't own the equipment or if the client was going to go do the job by themselves, they don't own the equipment. They're going to go rent all this equipment that I'm about to bring to their job site. And I have all the risk and I have all the maintenance and I have all the transportation costs. And so if somebody has something to say about that, tell them, well, then what you can do the whole job and tell me what equipment you're going to bring. Well, they're going to go rent everything. So they're renting the equipment from you technically, and they're paying for your labor. And you should be making money on every piece of equipment that you're bringing to that job site.
So they're basically renting the equipment from you and renting your labor.
Yeah. I mean, they don't know. I don't disclose that, but that's how I come to my number. I used to put that out there like I would line item everything. Like they would see how many days I have slotted for the mini excavator, or how many days I have. Basically what I do is anything with a gas engine is line itemed in my estimate. And then I have a job trailer that is comes to every job site. It has all the tools and all the consumables and all the saws, most of the saws. And all that is built into that, $200, $250 a day that I charge for that trailer to be on the job site. Because all that stuff is consumables and it's all going to have to be replaced in this, maybe say 5 years, or, we're always going through batteries on our like rotary lasers and all that stuff it all costs money and it's all got to get paid for. And it's all part of coming to the job site to do that scope of work. And so you need to be recovering all that stuff.
You shouldn't be eating it. Like
it's all part of doing the job. Yeah. And again, it goes back to if the client is going to do this project themselves, they're going to have to get all this equipment or rent all this equipment. It's not free. Right. It doesn't come for free.
Yeah, and I think a lot of lawn care companies just think, hey, we're just going to buy a new mower because it'll maybe make things go faster. We buy a smaller mower and get in fence yards, but you're not just eating the cost of that mower. You need to be charging appropriately for it. So I think it's a good mindset shift, at least, that you can implement into your invoice.
Absolutely.
You do that on the big stuff too?
Yeah. Honestly, we have it down to an hour. So we pre-plan it. Like when we buy the piece, I have a spreadsheet that I put my hours usage per month or per year, and it calculates my cost per hour for the whole year. So I'm figuring in a year I'll use that machine for 1,500 hours, and that 1,500 hours is allocated into those jobs. Now, if we go over the 1,500 hours, it's great. But I figured I'm at least going to get 1,500 hours for it.
Your baseline.
Yeah, because you're not going to be competitive. I don't care what market you're in. If you start taking your idle equipment and really just pushing it into another portion of the job or into your quotes, you're gonna price yourself right out.
That's right.
That's just how it goes. You can try to build yourself with technology, but you have to price the technology right into the jobs.
That's right.
And plan for it.
And when you're doing that, is that including the payments, the insurance, the maintenance, is that profit in there?
So there's no profit, but we put profit on our estimates at the end. That's no overhead either. That's just the equipment. That's the maintenance. That's the fuel. That's repairs, general repairs that you can guesstimate for the year. And honestly, on pretty much any piece, and I'm sure even the lawn care equipment, you can look up online and find, hey, this is your estimated daily cost. And you guys have to charge for it. It has to be calculated in there.
Yeah, and everybody's going to be different, like how they recover their overhead too. Like we do multiple overhead recovery system. So everything that I'm charging for my equipment to my materials to my labor, the overhead is stretched across all of those. And the reason we do that, it's different than from what you do, is because like sometimes I'll do jobs where it's super heavy labor, or sometimes it's super heavy on equipment, or sometimes it's a super easy job, but the materials are an insane amount of money. And so you can get yourself caught in different situations where if it's a super heavy material job and very low on labor, but you recover all your overhead from labor, you can get really caught in not recovering enough overhead on a job because you're not building that into your materials. So I do it like that because our jobs can be all over the board and how we recover. What we're doing on every job is always different, you know, so
on like your estimates, they don't see like per machine or anything.
no,
Like what
I used to do that. I got away from that because I had too many experiences where the client at the end of the job was questioning me on like we did the job faster than what I expected. And so she's like, well, you have on here 5 days for a compactor, but you only used it for 3 days. And it's like, well, yeah, but that's like, it's just, I had to get away from that. It's all part of doing the job. And now I just have lump sum numbers based on like work areas, so to speak. And so now it creates unnecessary conversations. And I also, when people like ask me like, hey, can you give me an itemized bill or an itemized list, and I just tell them it's company policy. We don't disclose that, but I'll tell you that we've figured the exact amount of material with the right amount of equipment and the right amount of labor to do your job exactly how it needs to be done. And you're relying on me as a professional to include that. But that also puts the weight on me because I need to do a professional job, and I'm not coming to them at the end and say, oh, I was a yard of mulch short. Can you pay me an extra $40? Like it's not, I'm a professional. They hire me. They're paying the appropriate price to do that. And so it's on me to do a good job of the estimating and eat the cost when I messed up, you know, so.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes transparency hurts the high performer, right? You know, the people come back and say, well, this guy's ripping me off. Well,
You did that a week too fast.
well, no,
Yeah.
we know we're really good at our job.
Right.
You know, and
It took me 10 years to get this good, and you can pay for those 10 years.
yeah, that's
Right.
paying for experience. So, I mean,
Right.
there's nothing wrong with that.
We got any questions?
Mrs. Natalie says, the kids are freaking out. They love me to miss you.
I miss them.
Say, hey, buddy. Logan's got a couple
Yeah, so I got the next one is what pushed you into doing social media?
Like, I'll go first.
All right, I'll go first.
You've been on social media longer than everyone here.
Geek to Freak. He did like smaller yards. He had like a 36-inch Encore and push mowers. And at the time, and still now, but like I was really trying to figure out how to stripe lawns. And I, for a couple years, was messing around. I thought I got pretty good. And so I put a GoPro on a fence, started mowing, uploaded it to YouTube, and then met some people, and we all kind of became friends. And that just built up to here. So just meeting people and showing off my stripes to Greg. So
I started doing it because I had so many people I was 24 when I started my company. And so we scaled pretty quickly. So a lot of people were messaging me, how did you do that? And I was pretty openly debt free. So instead of answering every question, I started posting on social media, trying to give tips and tricks on how to do that appropriately. That's really why I started doing it. It's that simple. I like helping people, and social media helps, you know, paint a broad brush instead of having to answer every single thing individually, every email. So,
it's awesome.
I don't know. I just thought it was fun. I really had no.
that's the great answer.
I literally had no like no desire to like go somewhere or do something. It was just I liked showing what we were doing every day, and then like people are like, "Oh, I really enjoyed following them. That I really love that picture." Or, I don't know. It's just something I like to do. I don't know.
It's awesome.
I would say ours is probably the workforce development. You know, I see a major need for, you know, the younger generation to come into the construction field. So in our mind is, you know, we want to show all the opportunity. Show all these kids, hey, like, listen, this is what you can do. This is what you can achieve. And look what our guys are doing. And then on the back end, it also helps with our guys. Our guys appreciate it. They like to see, hey, we appreciate what they're doing. So
It's cool.
That's awesome.
It's like a highlight reel for them.
Okay,
Yeah.
I have a question. Besides labor and materials, what other costs should be accounted for when estimating?
Oh man, all your taxes, insurance, rent, all your overhead expenses that make you run the operation. Gas last year cost us 2%. I was just telling Blake this on our net profit. And we had a hard time recouping that because we didn't put a clause in our service agreements that if gas prices go up, then we get to raise our rates. So we got caught kind of with our hands tied behind our back. So we will not do that same mistake this year. So you have to think through everything, even the laptops that, we have 6 laptops in our office. You don't think about that, but that's $6,000 in laptops. And so you have to think through everything, the pencils, the ink. Your entire operation has to be, accounted for.
Another thing, something that I did actually on the plane ride here, which I had been, it's late for me to be doing this, but I review our expenses year over year and review our P&L and review our, I drill in on a couple categories like repair and maintenance and office expenses and things like that. And then I compare it year over year, and that helps you budget accordingly for the next year. And I always go through and even our tools and supplies, that's just miscellaneous stuff we're buying throughout the year. And I'll go through and highlight things that I know that was a one-time expense, and it helps me realistically budget for the next year. And that's how you get better at predicting your overhead and getting the right amount of overhead, you just have to start tracking it. And when whoever's entering your receipts, making sure they're labeling the things the right way. Because if they just put Menards 150 times, you have no idea what you bought for that. And spending a little time on the accounting side can be a huge help year over year when you're creating the next year's budget and all that stuff.
So how do you implement that, all of those expenses into each estimate?
We have different estimating. We have an estimating software that helps us do that. And then we create our own company budget in Excel, and help and make sure that that amount of overhead is being recouped in every estimate, as far as the office expenses and the repair and maintenance and those kinds of things. It's all then built and put into that software and helps us spit out the number that we need. So
It's awesome.
That's good.
We have, okay, we have someone from Puerto Rico saying hi to everyone.
Awesome.
That's amazing.
Hello.
That's amazing.
What services did you see the most profit for in 2021?
Well, I know the snow guys are going to say snow. But I don't get that. I had my first one, but fertilization was our number one most profitable service.
Did it say profit?
Profit? Yeah. We got our fertilizing license last year, our applicator's license. And because we started buying fertilizer direct from the maker instead of, the middleman was I don't want to say the companies, but they're great. But instead of buying from someone, who's retailing it, our profit margins with the machine, we got a Permagreen unit this year, which there's a Z-Spray, a lot of great units. With that, plus buying it directly, our profit margins were amazing with route density being good. So fertilization, if you can get into that and have a unit that can save you time, plus buying it direct, it's pretty good.
That's
really,
awesome.
really good.
For lawn care, these two guys I'll answer for lawn care real
Yeah.
quick. Aeration overseeding always does phenomenal for me. So maybe going into some other kind of industries in our industry.
yeah. Ours, this is way off of lawn care. Probably pipeline exposure.
We probably first should introduce what everybody does.
Yeah.
'Cause no one would know what you're
All
doing.
right,
Maybe you should explain to everybody what you do.
We are a pipeline service contractor. We basically do anything revolving to pipelines after they are put in the ground. We, repair them. We maintain them. We actually mow the right of ways, that the pipelines run down, the whole gamut there. And then we also have a division of the company that does the big heavy earthwork, with the big excavators and the trucks and,
No big deal.
yeah, that's the other portion of the company. But I was telling these guys, man, honestly, that is definitely not the big money maker. I can promise you. It is very low margins. It's all off production. But I would say this year for sure, and almost all years, our best margin wise would definitely be our exposure projects. We do, we excavate pipelines for thousands of feet. We take all the earth off of the top of the pipelines. The coal mine comes underneath, the ground drops away, and then we backfill it all and start all over at the next point.
It's like a big kid sandbox.
Really, really big sandbox.
Yeah.
Really dangerous.
Really
Yeah.
dangerous.
Yeah, really dangerous sandbox.
Most profitable thing is usually drainage work for us, or like French drains, downspouts, those kinds of things, and planting jobs. We do really well in planting work, tree planting, those kinds of things. Probably the most profitable, and I equate all of those things to having the right equipment and different things like that. We can just be way more efficient than somebody else because of the equipment we've invested in. So, yeah.
What do you do?
Oh,
You didn't introduce yourself. Sorry, I'm a bad host.
It's all right.
Right?
It's all right.
All right.
But yeah, lawn and commercial maintenance and light landscaping. You know, sod plants. Nothing crazy like these guys, but we did like, man, I don't know, 1,000 pallets of sod last year. Something crazy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's a lot of sod.
700, 900, somewhere in there.
Sounds horrible.
It was pretty bad.
That sounds
It was pretty
terrible.
bad.
It's a lot of
It was a
water.
lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot. So
1,000 pounds.
it was like I rounded up, probably 750 to 850.
New construction.
Yeah,
Okay.
a lot of like either new construction, they didn't like the type of sod that got put down, or redoing the backyard if they did a pool or something.
That's what I should have done in my yard. So much easier.
Got another question?
Yes, I do. If a job takes 5 days, are you putting 5 days worth of overhead in the estimate?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Profit markups. How much and why do you charge that?
I probably won't disclose that.
Yeah.
They want to know my profit margin. Sorry, say that
I
again.
guess maybe how do you decide how much
How
markup?
much profit you have in each job.
Yeah,
It's
I would say-
literally strictly.
Desire.
It's up to you.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. It's what you think the market can handle. It's what you think you're valued at. It's what you think your client will sustain. Your clientele will sustain, and what you believe what you value yourself at. I mean, that's the costs. You can't make up the costs. That the costs are the costs of your company. That it is what it is. On top of that is strictly what you want to.
Your discretion.
Yeah.
I mean,
if you're in our industry, I truly believe, and really anything, like if you're below 10%, you're not making any money. You have got to be. I mean, that is bare bones bottom, in my opinion. So.
I mean,
And it sort of depends on the scale as well, right? So like if you're under $1 million company in lawn and landscape, your margin's going to be higher because you don't have as much labor costs and overhead costs. If you're $1 million and over, your percentage is probably going to go down. I know for Trifecta, as we've scaled every year and we went over that, my margin probably went down X amount of percent. But are you willing to say, well, we're getting more revenue because we're getting more profit because we're doing more revenue?
Sure.
It's a trade-off. I know the Spencers have talked about this a lot. I've listened to them. Where like you guys they're really lean and mean and their profit margins are good. We're like, we had a hard year last year because our costs were so high and inflation crushed us, and we moved new facilities. So you kind of take what what your hand gives you, and you have to make, like you said, discretion is key on that. It's really what you decide, which makes it hard because then if somebody decides 5% is enough for them, then the market kind of
Let
gets
them have
tough.
it.
Yeah, it gets tough.
Yeah, I mean, you have to look at the analytics of the market, right? Look at the market. That's the first big thing, and then look at your risk. Honestly, whatever your biggest thing has to be your risk. I mean, if you have a big risk going into it, make your profit margin higher, because if they don't do it, oh well, it was a big risk anyways. You're taking a big risk on them.
Great point.
You're taking a big risk on them, and they're taking a big risk on you. So raise that profit margin. Go with it.
All right, next question. How do you plan to go about raising prices in 2022?
That's a really good question. I know, Alex, we were just talking about this, so I want you to answer this.
So we've been doing a strategy on it. As Logan knows, we recorded a video to tell customers we were going to raise prices and did it in a friendly environment, like out in the sunshine. And like, seriously, we did like a really nice
Butterfly
way.
mirror, butterflies.
Yeah, so we did it like with a boulder, and I'm like sitting there looking like Mr. Rogers.
Water spilling
Yeah,
around.
yeah, seriously. Because I was in my mind, like marketing psychologically, I'm like, this is not going to be good news. I need them to understand it has to be done.
And you sent it to them?
We sent it individually to every
That's
person.
hilarious.
Yeah, we sent an email notification, and we sent it to their personal phone so they'd watch it just a 45-second video, and then once they don't respond negatively, we're going to send them a new service letter. That's what we're doing, because I think it's everyone knows prices are going up. We're like the last ones at the table that haven't raised their prices yet because we're at the end, at the end of our renewals from inflation starting June-ish, May. So I don't know. I think we're going to lose customers, but I heard something so interesting the other day. It said if you lose half your customers but doubled your prices, you do the same revenue. And
That's right.
so that's we're kind of willing to take the risk now because if it's not worth it. It's not worth it. We've just talked about.
Yeah. So how do you determine going this year, 2022?
Mm-hmm.
What are we raising our prices to? How do we make that determination?
It's hard to know exactly because the Fed will tell you one thing and the government tells you another. I think you have to do a research and then you have to go above what you think you've researched because they could be wrong. That's my take. So if it's 6 to 8%, you should probably go 10. If they say it's 9, I don't know, there's different things, 9 to 10%, go 12 because you have to raise your rate plus inflation because we have to go 2 to 3% every year, 2% every year. So you're doing that plus the inflation rate. So if you're not raising your rates next year, you need to immediately think about doing that. Not just think about it, you need to implement a strategy because it's going to be a sinking ship with what's going on.
Yeah. So what we did I have a maintenance side of the company too. For the maintenance side, we sent out a letter with our service renewal contracts or whatever, just telling them what everybody's telling everybody. And then we raised everybody across the board 12%. And then we raised our minimum mow cost for any yard we raised it to a specific number. That I don't want to mow any lawn below that price. So every price that was at a set number before, they raised up to the new minimum no matter what. But anybody that was already above that minimum was raised 12%. And the reason for that was I projected what I think the costs are going to be for our company. I know that inflation is around 7 or 8%. And I know that equipment is through the roof. And so I was going to keep it at 10, but I went to 12 strictly due to equipment costs. And I knew that for me to keep cycling the equipment like I want to, I'm going to be buying 2 mowers this year or maybe 1. And I knew that it's going to cost me $4 or $5 grand more or maybe $3 grand more than it did the year before. And so that's how I got to the 12%.
That's good.
On the landscape side, I don't need to notify anybody of my price increases. The price is the price. Nothing is compared to before. It's never compared to before.
Right.
And every single estimate has 15-day expiration on it. And I will send out, whenever I make an estimate, it will have on it, it will have the expiration date of it. And then I signed a job last fall for this spring. And I wrote on the contract, if we don't complete this job by the end of 2021 and it goes into 2022, the pricing is subject to change because it's a drainage job and piping has been going through the roof. And so I'm paying $20 more a stick of 4-inch SDR pipe than $20 a piece more than I was paying last year at this time.
Wow.
So you're talking, it used to be $10 a stick and now it's 30, and it's just, and I got to use this on this job. And so, he doesn't know it yet, but he's going to have a different price this spring. So
You might be watching.
Yeah, so whatever.
So
there's nothing, you can't get away from it, but you have to communicate this stuff to people and you have to write it in there. And, it is what it is. It is what it is.
So if Nancy calls you 20 days later, what do? Reevaluate?
I'll tell her hey, it's been 20 days since we talked and I want to, before you sign the contract, I need to confirm that the pricing is still the same because it is changing that much, especially on consumables and piping and some of these things. I'm not going to be changing. I'll keep my rates probably pretty similar all year. I'm pretty confident I'll be able to do that. The fuel is going to change a little bit, but it's not going to ruin. I'm not going to say no to a job because they don't want to give me an extra $300. It's most of our jobs are big enough to where that I'm okay with that. But those, if it's a heavy drainage job or a heavy, erosion control job where I need to be checking the pricing and the seed and the erosion mat and any kind of pipe because that stuff is moving all over the place. Right. And so you just tell them, I just need to we had a 15-day expiration date, and I just need to evaluate it, and then we'll go from there. So it's good.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear more about like a large scale company, because you told us like something crazy earlier, like if gas goes up this much, it's like a $400 difference a day or something.
Yeah, it's way different for me than.
Yeah, I mean, it's just exponential. It's different, but it's not. So for us, it's the same thing. You know, in contracts, you know, we try to do this in, and then honestly, it does not happen very often because a lot of the clients we're working with and the service agreements we have, you know, once you give them the price, you give them the price. So you're rolling the dice. It's a pretty much crapshoot.
And your jobs are longer too. Like,
Yeah, I mean, some more jobs are, you know, can be up to 18 months. So
that's crazy.
So you were kind of you know, you're just stuck in a hard place, you know. But you know, on the front end, if with your contracts, so you can put escalation clauses in, you know. And honestly, I'd probably promote to do it, you know, because fuel is going to go up this year. That's for sure. I can tell you that. That's one thing for sure. And with us, you know, fuel can change 20 cents. And when you're using, you know, say 1,500 gallons a day, 20 cents is $300 a day. So if you do that over 6 months, $300 a day times, you know, that's a lot of money. You know, over 6 months, that's $36,000.
$36,000. Yeah.
So do you guys try to like foresee that? And
I try to plan for it.
Yeah.
So I talk with like, you know, our fuel distributors and say, hey, like, what are you guys thinking? And they usually give me an idea. So you just try to stay informed as you can. You know, with the pipe pricing, like we are feeling that bad.
Oh,
real
man.
bad. So, you know, put in material clauses, you know, into your contracts. Like, hey, this is the set date material price we have right now. If materials go up more than 5%, you know, we are, you know, welcome to that change in the difference. You know?
Right.
You have to do it. I mean, everybody's going to have to do it here because the volatility of the market, you can't eat it as a contractor.
And I also think the general public as a whole they're hearing this everywhere. This is not new.
right.
We're the last person to start telling people this.
Yeah.
So like, don't think like you're going to get a couple pushbacks, but you don't need to work for those people anyways. It's just the world we live in, and everywhere they're going to buy something, it's the same thing. So it is what it is. So.
Yeah. I want to get a couple other people in here. We got a lot of people in the hype house here. So anybody that wants to come join in, answer some questions, get on in here. Christian?
So,
Yeah.
come on, Christian.
Cool. All right. Get in here.
What other questions we got?
What do you think about another question here on your page, Andy? Production pay, or you're paid for performance versus just straight hourly pay, or piecemeal pay, whatever they call it.
For the employees.
Yeah, I'm sorry, for employees is the question. Yeah.
Like, what do I think on the difference?
Well, yeah, like it's just a question in general. So like, okay, we mow 10 yards a day, we pay $10 a yard, you make $100 a day, or where you get paid, the employee
Per
pays
square
$10 a
foot.
square foot.
Sure.
I think if it was implemented like in my business, I think it would be killer because it wouldn't matter if they sit around and like, if you want to go home, just get these yards done, you're going to get paid and we're done. It's going to, I think would eliminate, you know, sitting around on your phone or at the gas station or, you know, all of those kind of time wasters that you get with hourly. But I don't do it, but I've heard a lot of things and that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I don't know if it would work well enough for me because we do so many different things all the time. And I don't have like set guys that come and only install pavers or set guys that only do lawn maintenance. Like I have a crew that does maintenance, but they don't mow on Wednesdays, and Wednesdays they come and do landscaping with us. And so it would be too messy and because I'm not big enough to have people that do the exact same thing every single day. And so I just have never done that.
So
it's not a bad thing.
Do you think it'd be easier for like lawn care guys?
I think so.
Oh,
I think so.
Yeah, that's what I'd say.
And it also depends on the type of employee you have. Some people are motivated by that. Some people are not motivated by that.
Yeah.
It's
Because
just
now they're like, I can sit here, you know?
yeah, like they just everybody is different. Like I have two different types of people in my company that I know. This person would be motivated by if I said, if you install X amount of square feet, you get paid more. But then there's other people that it's one speed and that's the speed they're working, and that's okay.
Yes.
And it takes all kinds, but I think it would really depend on the type of employee you have. So
Yeah, I would say if you have somebody who's like, bringing you leads or something like that, or, upselling work, but in my company or smaller, I'm doing most of the selling. So doesn't seem like it.
Yeah. What about like long-term jobs like you do? Is that possible?
Honestly, I don't. I mean, I guess you could, but it would be the actual tracking of it would be a nightmare.
Yes.
First of all, and then the other thing is, like he said, when your service line, the more it's diversified, the harder it will be.
Oh,
You know?
yeah.
It would just be, and then guys know that they're not good at a service, like a certain thing in your company, right? They're going to avoid it. So,
Right.
Yeah, they're gonna be like, yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm terrible at it. I won't make any money doing that. So I think that they're gonna guys will take jobs to make the most money, and I think it could create some tension within your company.
I was gonna say the same thing.
Yeah. So like if we were just mowing and it's $20 a yard or something
Yeah,
to get done at 2:00 versus whatever time, like it might be an incentive, but I can see it both ways.
I've been thinking about this because I have 20 guys who do lawn maintenance, but here's the problem: is then if you pay people play for play, what are they calling it?
Pay for
Like
performance.
pay for the work you're doing.
What happens if they get 2 callbacks? Do you have to then deduct their pay back?
What I've heard when Mike Andes actually explained it to me at the GA Expo, that they don't get paid for callbacks.
Then you're going to have higher turnover because then there's going to be disputes all the time.
The other side is like they're just going to do the job correctly the first time, so they don't have to go back and waste their time and not
It
get
sounds
paid.
really good, but I don't think
Yeah.
that would happen.
No, yeah, I'm
the
just
way
telling you.
and I like Mike. Mike has operations that are like he's amazing by the way. But when you have one to like your size, like 1 to 4 people, I can see it being clean cut for maintenance side. When you have 20 people, and now they want to be on the high end residential route because they're gonna get paid more for those.
Right.
And they're all like doing rock paper scissors for who wants
Oh.
to go on what route that day. It sounds. Oh my goodness, I can't.
So you're saying if it was a percentage of what that yard brings in, then everybody would just want to go to the nicest
Yes.
yard.
And then here's the other problem. They're going to start doing the math themselves and being like, oh, I should just go get these yards myself. Let's start to put profit margin myself. And you're going to have guys starting lawn care companies left and right out of your company. And you're going to have the most turnover you've ever seen in your life.
I'd be curious if somebody that does that, like if those are true.
Yeah.
Because
Anyways.
yeah, it's good.
Thanks, AJ.
I have questions. Okay.
Let's hear 'em.
Where to start? Someone wants to hear about the snowmobiling rack.
They want to hear about the snowmobile rack?
There's been multiple questions about it.
Oh yeah, I bet there has. What do they want to know about it? Like what happened?
I don't know anything about this.
Oh, I wrecked a snowmobile this week real bad.
Uh-oh.
All right, you get 30 seconds.
All right, so me and Caleb Alman and Jeremy Swihart, my brother, and Zach Turneau and his brother went to Montana snowmobiling, rented snowmobiles, and the first day, I don't know, halfway through the day, I went up a big steep hill that didn't look so steep until I found out it was too steep, and the sled, I turned, sled tipped over, stopped, I tried to flip it back over, and we both went on a ride. Couple flips down, I jumped out of the way, and the sled landed on its ski and ghost rided right down the hill and smashed a tree. So that was so we drove it back 30 miles with one shock, and the heated grip still works. So that was and they gave me another.
What did they say?
Well, I had bought the insurance, so they didn't really. It was the 4th one that got wrecked that day. They said so.
Jeez.
Paid the deductible and got a new sled in 30 minutes, and we went shredding some more. So
That's awesome.
that's what happened. It's all on the YouTube video, Caleb's page.
That's awesome.
Okay. When do you hire employees as a high schooler? When can I add a second truck, 4-wheel drive to the fleet? Current truck is 2-wheel drive, causing us to not be able to do snow removal.
That's fine.
Dude, that's literally was my situation.
Yeah, maybe just don't do the snow.
And it was actually the easiest time to hire people in high school because I'm like peers with everybody that wants a job.
Yeah, you talked about that.
Yeah. So if you're in high school right now, I mean, for me, I've probably found 5 to 7 guys just from like our youth group alone at our church. There's also like, I I mean, I post on like my personal social medias a lot, just for the fact that people to be familiar with that I'm always working, and then I'll have people like come up to me like, oh, you want a job, you're hiring. So it's kind of just keep, what I suggest is to keep reminding the people around you that what you do, and then people will remember next time they need a job to think of you. So it's like it'll probably be the easiest it'll ever be, like ever. Ever.
It does sound.
Yeah, I mean, you have a huge pool of people, and if you're pricing your jobs correctly, like you can pay them more than they're probably going to go make like a fast food or whatever.
And for us, we've made such a culture, like, it's a bunch of young guys. I'm taking my guys to a Blackhawks game, like in 2 weeks. We have a Top Golf event every summer. And one of my clients may even let us use their house in Door County, Wisconsin, like in the summer. So we really try to like
outings, like
we try to make it like really fun and a great environment. Like even one of my guys is flying back in to come do snow removal with us like next week. He's in California, so like that's how we try to make it such like a great.
Might just go work for him. It sounds amazing.
Vacation.
Way more fun, I can tell you that.
Yeah, so it's you really got to make a culture out of it, and take advantage of being in high school, because some of these guys who are now in college and been with me 3 or 4 years, who knows after their college if they don't find use for their degree, or we are hiring needing somebody with a degree. It's always an option.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's really great.
And for the truck thing, for snow removal, what I found with like a smaller pickup truck, like a 1 ton or less, a 4-wheel drive is really necessary, I find. But if you have like a dump truck with like salt in the back and then a plow in the front, you get with nice tires, and 2-wheel drive is fine. 4-wheel drive is actually quite restricting with turning radius on like a larger vehicle.
Okay, I have a question. As a business owner, do you pay yourself overtime if you work more than 40 hours?
That would be amazing if I got paid for all the hours that I work. No, I don't pay myself overtime. I'm salaried within the company at a set amount, and have a scheduled distributions quarterly, and that's strictly for tax, like how we're structured as a company as far as being an S corp. That's how we do it. I used to do it differently than that, but that's how I pay myself. And it's important on this subject is to make sure that you don't fly by the seat of your pants with what you're paying yourself, and just take money out of the company whenever you see fit. It's very important that you set yourself up on a scheduled amount of money or a set amount of money, because you'll start starving your company of the profits and restrict your growth. And because I think a lot of business owners get into that habit where they just take money whenever they want because it's just there. And then you also are not living on a budget personally, and that restricts you as well, because you're just flying by the seat of your pants and think that the company's always going to have this oodles of money to pay you, and then when it doesn't, all of a sudden you don't know how to live. So it's just a side note.
Yeah, that's awesome. Any more questions, Brittany?
Yeah, we have a lot. What do you guys do for retirement after lawn care? Invest in the market or investing in the business to build it up and sell?
It's really good.
Christian,
Anybody?
I'll figure it out later.
I was like, where's the retirement?
I do have a Roth, so
I'm done.
it's good
Gonna be a millionaire in
It's good to
10
max
years.
out your Roth when you can.
Less than that.
Especially when you're young, right?
Yeah.
In all seriousness, he's telling us earlier, he's like, yeah, it's 7th grade. I'm pulling a wagon down the street with mine. I'm like, you what? He's like, yeah, I've been in business for 10 years. I'm like, geez, man, I really makes me feel terrible. But that's like, seriously.
Bravo.
This kid is awesome.
That's awesome.
It's really more about like the people around you, like, and sure you guys know, none of us would be anywhere without our team members. Like, no way we would be able to get all our work done, and that's really important, is reinvesting in your team, I think.
Yep.
Well, Christian, can you tell people about how, like, your parents or something, like, not a lot of people have parents that pour into them like yours have, which is so crucial. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah, I actually get that question all the time from a lot of my followers, or they'll say, like, if their parents won't like co-sign on a loan, or they don't really believe in them sometimes. And it just reminds me of how fortunate I am. Like my parents, they co-signed on 2 of my loans for my first stand-on mowers. You know, my parents do help me a lot with a lot of like the back end of the business stuff, with all the taxes and all the accounting stuff that I'm not really familiar with, and all the business planning and the pro forma for whatever the next couple of years, and a lot of that stuff that I really don't know much about. Like,
What pro forma?
I think that's like a business plan, right, for like the next couple of years, I believe. So
Get a dictionary, please.
check on that call. That's yeah, very
I was
fortunate.
gonna say, where's Alicia at?
And being in my position allows me to like basically reinvest everything. I pay myself when I get low on money in my account to buy food. You know, it's like, and so I just
That's
basically,
okay.
yeah, I reinvest everything, and maybe I pay myself like $1,000 a month.
It's the easiest you'll ever be able to do that.
Oh,
So
Good for you.
I want to hit on that. 'Cause
Just put it all in Dogecoin. No, I'm kidding.
I was gonna say,
Here we
yeah, Doge.
No.
Let Elon Musk tweet. No, so a lot of people, I don't think this is talked about enough in the lawn and landscape industry, is that if your business isn't always able to be sold, then you're probably in a pretty poor situation. Meaning that if a great opportunity comes up, if you don't have flexibility, or if you have a life event, right? If something happens to where you can't continue this type of life work, and you had this amazing business that did well for you personally, but it couldn't do well for somebody else. Maybe it was named improperly. Maybe it was structured in a way that was binding. I think one of the best things you can do is get it to a place where somebody outside of maybe even the industry would say, that's a great business. I don't care if it's a car wash or a landscape company, you know, it's really valuable. So I think if you haven't thought through that, at least preliminarily, you should. Because,
And how do you do that? With systems, with
yeah. So, you know, having your handbook in place. So one thing we've been doing lately is like, if someone wanted to come in and know about Trifecta in 30 days and feel like they would have at least a handle on it, is it ready to go? Do they know this is how we do this? Here's our bank account stuff. You know, not our routing numbers, obviously, but know who could call. You know, we've had a company call last that out of state. It was like, hey, we'll pay you this amount of money. And I didn't think that would happen, but I'm glad I had it prepared just in case, so I could say, I said no, obviously.
do you think the size of the business matters, or is it more just like, hey, will it just crumble if I'm not the one going there and meeting with people? Or
I think
Well,
yes.
also if you make money.
Yeah. And if it's only built on you, I think it's a little dangerous, but it's also preferential. Like if you don't want it to be and you want it to be your family's legacy and that's it, that's great. But I personally think at least having it where it can be purchased for a respectable number at any time is a great place to be.
Yeah. And to go back into it, like Roth IRA is super awesome. Like that's what I have too. I do a little bit of crypto, which is a hot topic, but
NFTs?
not yet. But
I'm not talking about that.
you know, I think for a while at least, like you're investing into your business for it to make more money, and I've heard that story quite a few times this week and just talking to people. And then once the business starting to grow and make money, and then you can look into other areas.
How many people does Christian have working for him?
42.
Depends. Last fall it was pretty rough, to be honest. I was really working out there a lot myself. So 2 to 10, like 2 to 10.
It's a large range.
Seasonal.
At any given time.
2 to 10 at a time. We probably have, to be honest, like 30 different people who will work for us throughout the year, maybe 35 or 40. But that's one of the things, being like, I'm very, very flexible. So if somebody has a commitment, they can only work on a certain day. Well, luckily this other guy's can only work the other days. So you just gotta be flexible, and like a lot of times it's unfortunate, but so you just gotta play the game.
Sounds so easy.
Yeah.
Sean Spencer, you are being requested.
Come on.
I'm not here.
Sean.
And then we have a question, where are the ladies?
I was fun you guys still hop off.
We have, let's see, I'll ask another question while Sean comes up here.
Unique
Sean.
things from Andy's
Yeah, he's
page. What are unique things that you felt were important to put in your employee handbook? Unique things.
Unique things.
For me, it was like all the little things that people would always ask me, or if the crew went off on their own, that they would call and ask, what do I do? For me, it was like flat tires, blade changes, like simple things like that are simple to us. But throughout the last 10 years, I've found, if a flat tire, this is the easiest and fastest way to do it, and making sure all that stuff's on the trailer and they know exactly what to do when it happens. And people aren't just standing around for 2 hours going, I think we should try this. We should try this. It's just a huge time waster.
I think dress code is super important to have in there. Now it sounds ridiculous, but like I don't want anybody wearing shorts, and I don't want cut off shirts, boots, and like it sounds crazy, but like
No flip.
No, we don't do that. So I need my employee handbook, honestly.
I heard you talk about employee
Yeah,
handbook.
we just added core values to our handbook. That's a long conversation, but we recently realized that core values has always been like a corny thing to me. I think I was telling you this, Blake, the other day, right? And but recently I've realized that our core values is everything's filtered through. So now our core values are in our handbook, to where our employees know as we talk about this, they're not like, what is that? I never heard that language. That this is the core values. They are a part of the company. You have to answer to them as well, just like a boss. So we just started putting those in our handbook that now it's implemented in our company culture and stuff.
I know something for us is we have a signature page saying
Yes, we do
they
too.
read through it,
Oh,
they
yeah.
signed it,
Yeah.
and we keep that in our employee records.
Yep.
And they make sure they have a copy, and we have a copy.
That's right. That's good.
Make sure.
That's awesome. Are you guys loving this, hating this? Let us know in the comments.
People
Questions?
Smash that like button.
I'm monitoring Andy's page. Or people were wondering who Christian is. Did you not do an introduction?
No, he just kind of walked out.
Get back. Come back here.
People introduce them on here. Keep scrolling down.
Introduce yourself.
He's like, okay, I'm got it.
Christian with CNI Services out of,
Yeah, go further.
There you go.
Christian.
let's do it. Christian with CNI Services out of, can you even see me? Out of Illinois, out of the Chicagoland area. 19.
Bossing it up.
Sending it all day long.
Pushing P, right?
Pushing P.
That's some good drip.
Pushing
Pushing
P.
P.
I'm culturing them while they're here. Don't worry about
Yeah, we're learning. I went straight from kid to dad mode, right? I don't know this stuff anymore.
Should you raise pricing consistently every year by a certain percentage or do a larger amount every 2 to 3 years?
Always raise your prices every single year. Every single year.
And Brian said something today, like this will probably be the easiest year we
Oh,
have
my
raising prices because people are so used to it.
Everybody's used to it. But you should be raising. Normally, in years past, it would have been like 3 to 5% we would raise every year, but this year is triple that. So.
I was thinking earlier when you guys were talking about this, it shouldn't just be this year. It should be every single year. Your customers should be groomed to know, like, hey, we're going to have a rate increase, so that when they do get it, they're not like shocked, like, why are they raising my prices? It just should be natural. You should raise your prices, and it shouldn't be a big deal. Everything's going up. Now, if you're trying to get greedy and being dumb with your price increases, you're going to get caught. And
35%.
Well, if you don't really, all of a sudden you're going to get caught where you
Yeah.
think you need to do that.
Yeah.
Look, you're going to
It's
get
too
caught
late.
here, or you're going to get caught here. You can go out of business, or you can lose a few customers and, get the right rates for what you're doing.
That's a good point. It's a really good point.
It's awesome.
Okay. Do you guys have all of your customers on contracts?
We call it a service agreement for how the way it falls, because it's contracts are tough with the maintenance side. So we have everyone on service agreement, and there's terms to it, and there's a late fee attached and all that. But I'm interested, Andy, what happens if you do a $25,000 job? Do you have a payment? They have to pay the day it's done, or is there like 10 days of grace?
For landscaping,
Yeah.
we have 50% deposit for any job. Usually, I try and get every single job to do a 50% deposit, but typically it's 50% if it's 50 grand or under. And then the rest when it's finished and it's due the day I'm done. I'm not like slamming on their door, but it says it in there. If they wait past 30 days, then I've never had a landscape. I shouldn't say that. I've had one job that I didn't get paid on, but that's typically what we do. If it's over 50 grand, then we'll have like a midway through the job payment, or we'll have some kind of draw schedule that I've spelled out depending on the type of job. So that's typically what we do.
This is awesome. Any other questions?
Somebody wants to make sure, is questioning if the house has enough juice boxes for Christian.
He did. His parents had to sign a waiver.
We did have Oreos and apple.
I'm pretty sure you're more. Boxes. Okay. Next question.
How many hours per week is most productive for your crews? 40, 50, 60 question.
That's a great question.
We typically work 50 to 60 in 5 days. I like to keep it at less than 50.
Yeah, we got to get. It depends on the time of year, right?
Well, yeah, in peak season. That's what that's what we're working.
Yeah, we got to work till it's done, right?
We used to push 52, and then in July of last year, I reanalyzed and realized I was getting more out of 410s than I was out of 5.9s or 5.11s. And so guys were either trying to rush to get back early because they were exhausted, or they were milking it because they wanted them overtime. So we moved to a 410 structure, and we had better production. But I think it changes per.
Well, okay. I also would preface that and say my maintenance crew only works 4 days a week.
Okay.
The other days they're working with us on landscaping because I don't ever want to pay overtime for maintenance work. I don't have a problem paying overtime for the landscape side. So if they're going to work, they're always working more than 40, but that overtime pay is coming from a landscape job. I don't ever want more than 4 days a week for mowing because of weather.
Yeah.
That way you have a
There's always that extra day.
Friday.
And then if there's 2 days, then they can work Saturday. We try not to work Saturdays, and that started this end of the second year doing that.
Yeah, I wish I was that smart because like in the springtime, I feel like we're always behind, right? Like,
Yeah, you get 2 rain days and you're screwed.
Yeah.
It's just something I've always wanted to do. Is not have to have 5 full days because you immediately are working the weekend.
Yeah. What do we got, Brian?
This is kind of a different question, a little bit maybe more high level, but can you touch on unemployment as it pertains to employees and how you go about hiring them?
Like, what do you mean?
My part-time, you lay your people off, like with the expectation of paying them unemployment or not.
So it's very important when you're hiring people in this business that you tell them what position they're getting hired for. Like if they're being hired for a seasonal job, it's very important that you communicate that. I have something that I make people sign that they know they have a 90-day probationary period, and they also know that it's a seasonal job. I have 3 guys that I keep on year round now. But they also know that we slow down in the winter time. And everyone, it's very clear, and you need to make sure you're communicating that stuff. And if you think with any shadow of a doubt that they're not gonna have work in the winter, you have to make sure they know they're seasonal and classify them as seasonal. Otherwise, they'll come right back to you. And it's okay to like if they know that like some people, they tell their guys, you will be laid off from this month and this month. And it's just, they just know that it's what it is.
Yeah, be honest with them.
Yeah, you just gotta tell them.
You're dealing with men and women. They know what they're getting themselves into. They know what they're signing whenever they do sign on the dotted line. So you just don't want to fluff it up to something that's totally not. If it's seasonal, it's seasonal. You can go all year and hope that's what you can do. You know, if it snows or whatever you do in the wintertime, you got to be transparent. That's the biggest thing.
Yep.
Last quick question, simple one, but do you guys prefer residential work or commercial work? Where does most of your business come from?
You just want to go down the line?
Yeah, sure.
I don't care where the work comes from as long as it's the profit that I want to be making on my work. But I probably do 10% commercial and the rest is residential. And that goes for the maintenance is probably 50-50, I would say. But on an install side, it's usually mostly residential. I'll do anything.
Yeah.
If it pays the amount of money that I want to make. So
yeah, for mowing, we're about 90% residential and 10% commercial. The big national companies, like I've just been burned so many times by, not gonna name them, but like we only do like mom and pop commercial stuff where it's like a dentist's office or down the line. But I have had bad luck with like the big well-known companies.
Me personally, I like both. Snow removal, I prefer commercial. Lawn care, residential, just because we're moving a lot. get a different scenery. You don't get bored as much. So snow removal though, commercial all day long for me.
We do 50-50 on mowing, residential, commercial, and then we do 90-10 on the landscaping, residential 90 on the landscaping.
That's awesome. I want to wrap it up here, but I always get a lot of value when somebody just gives one great tip that you think people will help grow their business or just maybe a mindset. And this is anybody in the house. If anybody has anything, come up here and talk, because I get a lot of value out of that.
I'll hop in first. Go for it. 100% go for it. What do you got to lose? You know, obviously, if you're not hurting anybody, just go for it, man. If I would have chose to go for it 4 years earlier, where would I be now? But, you know, can't change the past. So go for it.
I would say be creative and have a strategy. Be intentional, be creative. Think outside of the box of how you're going to reach the customer is your dream customer.
You got anything, Ian? And anybody in the house? Brian always has something when I
one-liners.
Yeah, the one-liners. Anybody else?
I don't know.
We need some tips.
Tips? I don't know. We just gave all the tips. I'll take another question if that's what I'm if I'm going to spend my time doing it.
That's the way to handle change order.
First of all, tell your customer that if they want to add more scope of work, that there's going to be a change order, and then I send it via email and make them sign it. Or I also, in my contract, it says that they can accept a change order via text message or email. Like they don't actually, if they say I'll send them a text message, say, hey, I sent you that change order. Will you approve it? And if they write approve, like they've already signed and on the main contract saying that's how they could approve them. Always save text messages and never delete anything ever. There's my tip.
That's a really good tip, honestly.
Does that just get paid? Like at the
And then all of any change order in the contract also says any change order is paid at the time that the change order is completed. So like if they add 10 trees in the middle of the planting, I plant those 10 trees. I'm invoicing for those 10 trees now. I'm not waiting until the end.
That's awesome.
One last quick question. We're probably button up here, but we have a question from Top Notch Lawn Care. With wages going up across the country, have you guys implemented that as well? And then kind of part two from another person, David Ferguson. How do you pay guys in the winter to keep them on? Hourly rates? Do you switch it to salary? Those are three questions. Wages going up, are you paying people more? And then how do you keep people on?
Where we're from, if you do 80% of your job as labor, you cannot be paid salary. So I had guys early on salary, and I realized from my accountant that you're not allowed to do that. So make sure you check your tax laws because you can get really big trouble.
Say that again. What is it? 80%?
If 80% of your main job is labor focused, you cannot be paid salary. That's in South Carolina.
Well, that's interesting.
So just make sure you know that. The way we do with winter, we try to be busy through November, December. If we hit that goal, then we don't lay people off or anything because we're gonna have to rehire people in 6 weeks anyways. If we project to be slow in November, December, we've only had to do it one time. Then we have to do something drastic. But if you think about it, if you're going to cut 6 really good employees, are you really going to find 6 good ones more in 6 weeks? That's how.
And then you pay them in January.
We try to keep them busy as much as we can for those. We try to break even for 6 weeks. I'd rather break even for 6 weeks than save a few $1,000s and have to go through the headache of retraining 6 new people.
Good answer. What about wage increases? Do we do wage increases for your employees based on inflation and cost of living?
Yeah, we have to even attract a new employee. Funny thing, I put out something on Facebook last year, and the comments were people just roasting me because not enough, blah 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 blah, all that down the line. So I have to this year, or nobody will come and work for me. So I think that's with everybody. So
yeah,
we're gonna wrap it up here. I appreciate you guys for watching. I appreciate everybody that's announcement.
Tomorrow there's going to be another live panel.
Here, come up here and do it. You're better at this. Let's
Okay, tomorrow we will be live on Instagram and YouTube at 8 o'clock. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about equipment. We will be. I'm getting there.
The talented
We will be live on Instagram at Rex Enterprises. or Brax, just Brax, right?
Parks and Enterprises.
Okay.
That's world down.
And then we will also be live at Signature Landscape Corp.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. And on Instagram. And then we're going to be live on Christian's YouTube channel. So
CNI service.
CNI services. So 8 o'clock tomorrow, guys.
Cool. And I think we'll all post stories. So check it out.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Submit
Thanks,
your
everybody.
Submit questions.
Big thanks to the Hardscape Academy and Launchpreneur Academy, and also thanks to PermEdge for sponsoring my travels coming here. And I just thanks everybody for all this. So
Yeah.
absolutely.
Thanks, you guys. Cool. See you later.
I didn't tell you guys, but I'm a licensed